Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Chasing Labels, and welcome to another Criterion Collection Blu-ray review. This time we are in the month of December 2025, and we got a good array of the new releases for this month that we're going to talk about. Thanks again to Criterion Collection for allowing us to get some of these releases early. So the ones we are going to be covering this review, I got two and Andrew's got two. We're going to be covering the David Byrne's American Utopia, directed by Spike Lee. And then we have Salaam Bombay, that's directed by, her name is familiar, Maria Neer. She also did the other film in the collection, was it Mississippi?
Oh, Mississippi Masala. Yeah.
Masala. Yeah, she
Great
did that film as well. So this is her debut film. So really good. We'll get into it. And then Andrew's got two. What are the two you got?
I've got the one that was, I think, highly favorably anticipated, which is Pee-wee's Big Adventure, the Tim Burton film. Tim Burton's first film, actually. Of course, starring the late Paul Reubens in his iconic, pop culture character of Pee-wee Herman. And then I got a favorite amongst cinephiles, I would say. I just kind of learned this, is I Know Where I'm Going, the Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger film from 1945. Obviously, a big fan favorite of this is one Martin Scorsese, who talks about it here on this one. But we'll get into all of that. Yeah. But where would you like to start, Stephen? I don't know.
I was going to say, before we get into the reviews, I was going to say, I know Andrew has put up his Criterion sale. Sale's just about to end today, right?
Yes, today, the 7th of December, as of this recording.
Yeah.
So it went for the full month, November 7th to December 7th, which is kind of nice. They usually just cut it off at the end of December, right in the midst of all the Black Friday hullabaloo sales. But ironically, I just put in an order right before we started recording.
So the Barnes and Noble's trip is not all of it. So
no, that's usually my first round.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but the only one I have to be these days, especially this time of the year, it's tough to drop a lot of money on movies because of Christmas and whatnot. But I did grab the David Cronenberg's The Shrouds because it was going for a pretty low price. So I had to grab this. So yeah, let's do this. How about we change it up? We'll go back and forth. Okay. I'll start with David Byrne's American Utopia, directed by Spike Lee. And if you don't know who David Byrne is, he is the lead singer of the Talking Heads, 80s kind of iconic group. And if you hear any of the Talking Head songs, you'll know a few of the hits. I'm sure. And this film is a concert film, kind of. It is and it isn't, because it's not like your prototypical concert. It's performative. It's got a live music aspect, but it's also kind of like got some like live play aspects to it. A lot of dancing, and it's kind of a very unique experience, and just very well done. I didn't really know what to expect when it came to because I'm not a big Talking Heads guy. I mean, not that I don't know the music, but I'm not super fan. And I've never really seen David Byrne do anything live, but he's very good. Vocally, he does the singing, most of the prominent singing in this. And of course there's a lot of background vocals and stuff, but he is very good and very, charismatic and energetic. And I wasn't sure what we were going to get out of Spike Lee's direction, because, and I can see why he was drawn to this, because there are political messages in this. That a lot of what this kind of medley of songs is about is about the world we're in today, and how we can still come together and we can be this utopia if we want it to be, even when there's all these crazy things going on. And so, yeah, it's got a message to it, but it's also kind of just like a concert. And it's got a little bit of everything. I know this is one that you actually have seen, Andrew.
Yeah, I have seen it because it was on Netflix about 5 years ago or so when it came out. Um, yeah, I think that's where it was. Because I also know of David Byrne because of obviously from the Talking Heads, but that song "Burning Down the House" I think is like one of their
Burning
biggest
down the
hits.
house.
I always I kind of randomly break into songs sometimes as if I'm in a musical when nobody's looking, and that was that's one of the songs that I just pops into my head because it's so catchy. It's so
Yeah.
catchy, but David Byrne's been doing these types of concert movies for like decades. There was one that was just put out by A24. That's a big one that everybody kind of wanted to get. That was put out on Blu-ray, I think 4K as well. But he's been making like movie related stuff since the 80s with True Stories, which is also
Yeah.
another Criterion release. And this stars John Goodman. It says right here, a film by David Byrne. This came out a couple of years ago, and people really were excited about it, and a lot of people grabbed it up. So I thought I would take this off the shelf and kind of show it off a little bit as well, just because people may not know who David Byrne is, but he's been in movies and music and all that stuff for many years. This American Utopia, the movie itself is essentially just a recording of the Broadway show
Yeah.
based on the album of the same name, which is rather fascinating. I know they did something similar to that with Hamilton. If you
Yeah.
go on to
Yeah.
Disney Plus, you can see a recorded version of the original cast production of Hamilton. I kind of like that. You know what I mean? I like that they're recording these Broadway musicals and plays and things like that, and putting them on disc, putting them on streaming and stuff like that, because not everyone has access to Broadway musicals and
Sure.
plays.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone has that locally or is able to make the trip to New York or some other big time metropolitan area and whatnot. Ironically, my mom went to New York the other day to see Chicago, so that's very cool experience. But I'm just saying, American Utopia would be something that probably was shown on Broadway and all that stuff. But it's nice to at least get to be able to see it. Um, yeah, so I really liked it when it came out. I remember when it came out about 5 years ago in the middle of the pandemic, something to stream at
Yeah.
home, and I really liked it a lot. I think the music's excellent. Yeah, obviously there's political themes and all kinds of cultural themes in there as well. It's a story and a performance, and it's an artistic piece. It's really, even if you're not a big fan of musicals, if you just like good music, I think I think you may
It,
like it.
yeah. It's one of them experience, and this is a credit to Spike Lee's choices, how to shoot this thing. But there are moments in this where people were just rocking. This is like a theater. This isn't like a concert hall. It's a theater, and people are standing up and fucking rocking out
Yeah.
because it's so good. Like,
It really, yeah, people have a very, I guess, maybe misconception of musicals and things like that, where I guess it's stuffy and proper and you've gotta be, like, well behaved, but in some cases, that's not the
in this
thing.
particular case, yeah,
Like, I
like
just
it's
mentioned
not.
Hamilton, I'm pretty sure people, like, sing along to all of the
Oh
songs in
yeah,
Hamilton and people go crazy. They do Grease live and all that kind of stuff as well, so people probably, jamming out to all the Grease songs and whatnot. Um, but yeah, you're right, people are just jamming out 'cause,
dude.
I mean, David Byrne with the rock and roll background, you
Yeah.
kinda
Yeah,
can't
I mean,
help
and
yourself.
it's all, and he makes it a point in this that all everything that's going on stage is live. And, he literally does a song where he, like, layers it, and he says, "Okay, we're gonna start with this person, this then layer it to this person," and you get to hear everybody play their parts by themselves, so you understand that this is all harmony here. This is like all these people were coming together to make this one thing, and it's all in harmony. And that's kind of the point of the themes of the whole thing in general, is that we could harmonize better in this world if we really want to.
Mm,
um we just gotta want to. um but Yeah, it's interesting. There's not a ton of features on this. um there's an interview, sit down, David Byrne and Spike Lee talking about the production. And it was interesting because a lot of times when I see Spike Lee doing interviews, he's very, like, stoic. He's very, like, kind of like he like you're kind of like, I would be afraid to talk to him, because he's kind of always kind of intimidating in a way, I think. But in this, he's like laughing a lot, smiling a lot. I think David Burns just brings it out. In this particular project brought it out. Like, yeah, it's got some of the political things he loves to talk about in it, but also I think this was like a really fun project for him. And yeah, it was fun to see that side of him. And yeah, so they have a fun conversation, and then there's a whole about almost an hour long making of the whole thing. So yeah, just a couple features, but when it's something like this and it's like a concert, you know, in itself, that's how we see it. It's there. There's not
Yeah.
a lot of things to talk about in the sense of like how it was brought about.
Also, with it being a relatively new movie, there's probably not a lot to look back on, even though it was 5 years ago. So you really only get those two special features, which they are, of course, brand new, since it is, of course, a brand new movie.
Essentially, yeah.
It is a 4K UHD release, so I'm assuming it looks good,
Oh,
even though
yeah.
it is shot like in a theater, like on a stage and stuff. Like it's not a narrative production. So it also comes with the Blu-ray as well. And I'm assuming the sound must be nice on that. Yeah, it's
Oh,
got a
yeah.
5.1 surround DTS HD
Oh, yeah.
master audio. With a movie like that, if you have a good surround sound system, that thing's probably pumping pretty well.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, there's nothing really much else on that. There is an essay on the booklet as well by K. Austin Collins and an appreciation by critic Gia Tolentino. I like the cover. I like the
Yeah,
cover of that
cover's cool.
actually.
Yeah.
It's upside down. It looks kind of weird, but that's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Yeah,
what are you going to talk about first?
let me go. I'm gonna save the Tim Burton, Pee Wee's Big Adventure for last, just because I feel like that's the big December
You're
release.
going to make them wait. Okay. All right.
Criterion likes to do like December, like a one big December release, and this year that was the one. But no slouch of a release in and of itself is I Know Where I'm Going. The movie that is, like I said, directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, the Archers, if you will. This movie is from 1945, and it's really good. I mean, Martin Scorsese calls it a masterpiece, but he speaks very romantically and poetically about cinema, and of course, he knew Michael Powell and all that stuff. His opinion may be a little bit influenced. Either way, it's still a very good movie. Still one of their most excellent films. For those of you who do not know Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, they made such films as The Black Narcissus, The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, Stairway to Heaven, or A Matter of Life and Death is the alternative title. And of course, they did The Red Shoes, which I don't think I mentioned.
That probably is his Martin Scorsese's favorite.
Yeah, which may be their most well-known film. So they were a dynamic duo of directing, and just watching this last night and getting into the special features, you really have to experience their films for yourself because they have this magical, ethereal quality to them, unlike you see in many, many films. I don't know if it's just because they were making films in the 30s and 40s, and sometimes those movies do have that movie magic quality that you can't quite describe. But this movie here, I Know Where I'm Going, takes place in Scotland, it's northwest Scotland, on the island of Mull, which is a real place. The one thing about this movie is a lot of the outdoor stuff. I think most of the outdoor stuff was all shot on location in Scotland, which apparently was a place that Michael Powell loved to just like walk through and visit and hang out, essentially. And this is a romantic drama, if you will, sorry, dramedy. There's there's this woman in this film portrayed by Wendy Hiller named Joan Webster, and she's going to this isolated Scottish area place uh, called, I think it's the island of Killory. Yeah, the Isle of Killory, because she's gonna be marrying somebody, this wealthy, like I think Baron or something like that. Bellinger is his name. And she's going from like lower England, Londonish area, Manchester's area, wherever, to this place she's never been to before. She's never been there. This is kind of like almost mail order bride-esque situation here, where I think it was set up through her father because it's the 1940s. It's a patriarchal society, and she's not really from a wealthy family, so she's marrying into wealth. She's marrying somebody she doesn't know. She's going on this journey all by herself, and she ends up getting stuck in this place called the island of Mull. Due to inclement weather, she cannot make the journey further, and she ends up meeting a bunch of interesting characters. But one person she ends up meeting is portrayed by Roger Livesey, and it's a Scottish naval officer, and they end up striking up a relationship, a romance, an attachment, a connection, if you will, and they're kind of stranded in this place together. So it this movie kind of gives you the vibes of other movies like Brief Encounter or Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, the Richard Linklater films. Movies
Hey,
like that where it just you meet this person by happenstance and you have this magical ethereal connection with one another.
Dan in real life.
Yeah, I guess if we want to pull that one out, we'll pull that one
I
out.
always, anytime I have a chance, I do.
Dan in real life, shot in my home state of Rhode Island. And so this movie is one of those types of movies where, you know, you meet someone by happenstance, a stranger, and you just have this connection with them. And this movie explores all of that in a beautiful, poetic way, as Michael Pollan and Pressburger can do with this beautiful backdrop of this wonderful Scottish countryside and the ocean and stuff like that. Rather romantic, rather interesting. And there's all kinds of themes in here of like romance and marriage and connection and all that kind of stuff. Great movie. Really an excellent film. Kind of, I think, a lost film from there. Not lost, but like I said, it gets lost amongst their other masterpieces. You know what I mean?
Right.
But when it comes to the special features on this release, really good ones actually. I went through them last night, and let me pull them up, just so I don't do this. So this does, you know, with the movie being this old, it needed extensive restoration. And let's see, there's a new 4K digital restoration by the BFI National Archive. The film, supervised by Martin Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker Powell, who was of course Michael Powell's wife or widow, if you will. Also, Martin Scorsese's editor, longtime editor. I think she's edited everything from like Raging Bull all the way up to Killers of the Flower Moon. And there are probably no two better people closer to Michael Powell's work than these two people. They knew him, they worked with him, they were friends. Obviously, Thelma Schoonmaker was married to him, all kinds of stuff. So I just wanted to preface that because of, you know, people asking, oh, how good is the restoration? How good does the movie look? The movie looks really great. Really great. For a movie from 1945, there is actually one of those cool before and after restoration special features on here as well, where, you know, they do the side by side comparison of like, this is what it looked like before, this is what it looked like after, and you can see that it's like night and day. The pre-restoration look of this movie had every ailment you could possibly have: scratches, burns, tears, just, you know, grain issues, all kinds of stuff. The restoration part of it makes it look light years better. It really is a beautiful thing. Also shot in, you know, black and white, considering it's 1945. But other special features here, you have an audio commentary featuring film historian Ian Christie from 1994. I'm not quite sure where that commentary is from. I don't know if it was on like a previous Laserdisc or something of the time, because I think back in '94, the only places you really got commentaries were Laserdiscs. You know, this was pre-DVD days. And there's the behind the scenes stills narrated by Thelma Schoonmaker. So Michael Powell would go out on these nature walks in Scotland and he would just take pictures of like the countryside. And this is just Thelma Schoonmaker taking one of those, you know, collections of pictures and narrating them and talking about them and whatnot. I Know Where I'm Going is Revisited, is a 1994 30-minute short documentary feature by Mark Cousins. Now, Mark Cousins is a film historian, filmmaker guy who did that 15 episode journey through film documentary from 2011. It was on Netflix for the longest time. But anywho, he did that whole big thing and he's done a bunch of those types of movies over the years. That was really great, actually, because you get to see all kinds of people who just absolutely love the movie. There's one woman in here who's so obsessed with the movie that she actually went back in the late 80s to all of the filming locations herself and took pictures. And it's a tourist place now, actually, in Scotland. So I thought that was fascinating. There's a photo essay by writer Nancy Franklin exploring the locations used in the film. That's the woman I'm talking about. So just her narrating her picture. It's about 9 minutes long. And then this whole movie's from director Michael Powell. That's also narrated by Thelma Schoonmaker as well. So this is a nice released, if you're a big fan of their work, it's kind of a must. If you have their other work, it's I think an essential pickup in my opinion. For a movie I didn't know about until I watched it a couple months ago, I'm glad I have it in my collection now to add it to my Michael Powell's and Emma Pressburger section. So that is the release of I Know Where I'm Going, the 4K UHD with the Blu-ray as well.
Awesome. Yeah, I was jealous. You got that one. I'm a Pressburger, Powell and Pressburger fan myself, so I was hoping to grab that one, but I guess I'll have to wait. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on to my second pickup here, which is the Mira Neer film Salaam Bombay from 1988. And this is a film about, this is kind of a, I guess you would call it like a coming of age, not really a slice of life ish type of film, where we have a young boy street. This is the movie is dedicated to the street kids of Bombay. I mean, it's about, if you've seen Slumdog Millionaire, I would say Danny Boyle saw this movie, because it really feels like the sections of the movie in Slumdog Millionaire are very inspired by what this movie had to show. Because you get the nitty gritty, living on the streets, trying to do odd jobs to get by. And so, but in this case, yeah, I mean, this kid's alone. So at the beginning of the story, our main character, I'm looking for the kid's name. His name is boom.
His name is Krishna.
And he essentially damages his older brother's motorcycle, his bike. And so he has to try to find a way to get the money to pay for it, to fix it. So his mother sends him to the local circus to work it off. And so he's at the beginning of the story, he's working there, and then he gets sent off into the nearby city to get some things. But when he comes back, the circus had already picked up and left. So he's kind of now stranded in this kind of urban area, this, city of Bombay. And so now he has to try to find a way to make money and survive on the streets. And so he goes and he starts working for this tea shop, and he gets caught up in all different things, whether it be prostitution, a pimp, prostitution, drugs, all the different things that happen in this world. And it's one of the movies where, it's harrowing, but also there's a lot of the hope in there. There's some, you just want this kid to fucking make it, and by the end of it, you're just like, oh my God, it just tears your heart out. But there's a lot of great moments all through it that really reflect life and reflect what life's all about. And it's a good movie. It's a great debut. And one thing, of course, as a fan of the great Satyajit Ray, in one of the features in here where Mira Neer is talking to the composer of the film, and they're reflecting back on the film and the making and stuff, they talk about how Satyajit Ray saw this movie and loved it. And she said he cried, and also had talked to the composer and said that he needed to do more films, because at the time the composer wasn't really doing movies, and really didn't even want to do this project. He actually kept trying to get Maria Neer to get his brother to do it, because his brother was also into music, but she wanted him. And so just that connection alone, I'm just like, oh man,
yeah. When you were describing the movie, because I haven't seen it yet, I didn't get to see it in time for when we talked about these titles coming out on Chasing Labels, but it feels like a Satyajit Ray. It feels like a Pooh trilogy type of
Yeah,
movie.
it's got that vibe for
It's
sure.
got that vibe to it. And I've seen Mississippi Masala, which is a film she did several years after this movie, which stars a young Denzel Washington, and that movie is excellent. That was kind of like a lost movie for a while because like she didn't even have access to the movie. And I think there's
Mhm.
an interview that she did why when that came out where she was saying like, yeah, I didn't even know where the movie was. So, and the fact that people kind of rediscovered it through physical media, through Criterion, through various film fans and whatnot is kind of amazing. Uh, but yeah, this release sounds really really good. There is some other features on there. I think there's an audio commentary
Yeah, there's
with
commentary,
yeah.
there's, interview with, the screenwriter. It's an older interview, archival interview, talking about kind of the process of doing the homework of, like, kinda going into the streets and, like, trying to find the balance between reality and a film and, like, how to translate it the best way. So she, like, really dug in, um, to make sure that she was paying tribute to these. That's why I said this movie is. It says at the beginning it's dedicated to the kids of the street kids of Bombay. So, um, this is a kind of a normalized environment that people are aware of, and I believe that they set up kind of this film had like set up a program for the kids to help, I guess, help raise money and things like
Yeah, I
that
see
too.
that as one of the features,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
This is a
So
program about Salaam Bombay Trust and its mission to support the street children of Mumbai,
yeah.
which is that's really nice. Like, yeah, because awful lot of poverty in the world in general. Um, yeah, does the movie look good?
Yeah, it does. It's yeah, even just from the cover here, you can see that there's good colors and things. I know it's a little glare here, but
Mm,
yeah, there's a lot of color. I mean, we see a lot of Satyajit, right? Now, of course, he did have color films later, but like a lot of that really grand stuff early on is all in black and white. But like this film's set in, I guess I would assume set in the 80s
yeah.
when the movie was made. So it's definitely a little bit later on than what Satyajit Ray would cover, but it definitely still looks the same. It feels like a place kind of at a time, but so colorful and so vibrant and full of life,
Mm.
but also full of despair.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
it's got
unfortunately,
yeah,
that's seems to be evergreen within our society in various areas.
for
Like you
sure.
say, like, Satyajit Ray was making movies in the 50s and the 60s, and that movie's from the 80s, and obviously not much changed society-wise.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that sounds like a really good
yeah.
release. Sounds like a super underrated release that if
Yeah,
anybody's looking for stuff to, like a blind buy or something during one of the
it's a good one.
various sales and whatnot. That seems like a good one to do. Now that you're showing that off, it reminds me I did not show the inside of I Know Where I'm Going, so I thought I would do that before we move on to Pee Wee's Big Adventure. And of course, inside here you have the two discs overlapping. You've got the 4K UH disc, 4K UHD disc on the top, the Blu-ray below. And when it comes to the 4K UHDs releases of Criterion, usually the feature is just on the 4K disc and the special features are on the Blu-ray disc,
Yeah,
which that seems to be the standard now for many releases. And then of course you have your booklet here, some inner artwork, lovely black and white shot of our two main characters who are entangled in an interesting love story. So that is that. But let me speaking of like kind of crazy inner artwork and crazy outer artwork, we've got Pee Wee's Big Adventure. I was just kind of peeking around on the Blu-ray forums today, Blu-ray.com forums today, and people always debate everything when it comes to every release from everyone, and they're
yeah.
debating whether this is like a good cover or not a good cover, or if or whatnot. And I'm like, it captures the zaniness of this movie very very well. I love how drawn in this wild cartoonish comic booky animation, if you will, almost like a Sunday's Funny style cartoon comic strip and whatnot, because that's kind of what Pee Wee is and what his world is. I'm pretty sure many people watching this know Pee-wee Herman. They know Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Many people, of course, grew up with the character as well as this movie. What was interesting to me is that we know just revisiting a lot of Paul Rubens' work lately and revisiting this is like I grew up right after Pee-wee was a gigantic, big cultural icon. He kind of owned the '80s in that regard, and I was born in the late '80s, so by the time I was starting to consume media, Pee-wee's Playhouse was no longer on TV, or it wasn't part of the lexicon. This movie had come and gone, and sequel had come and gone. Paul Rubens wasn't doing the character anymore in the '90s, so like I wasn't really part of that generation that was really into Pee Wee Herman. So it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I, was exposed to the character and to this movie, because this movie played a lot on cable television back in the day. This movie played a lot, and yeah, like I said, this is Tim Burton's first theatrical film. Before then, he had done the short Frankenweenie, and he had done the short Vincent with Vincent Price, and he had also worked in animation for Disney. I think he worked on the movie The Fox and the Hound, that tragic, traumatizing movie from our
Yeah,
childhoods.
yeah.
Even to this day, I can't watch that movie. And I think he worked on that, so he had the background in animation, and he had the background with this kind of flair in terms of his specific style that he was creating at the time. If you know Tim Burton, he's got that style that is very distinct, very specific. Obviously, after this, he would go on to do Beetlejuice. He would go on to do, Batman, Batman Returns, Edward Scissorhands, Mars Attacks, Sleepy Hollow, uh, what's the Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street. So like this is where it kind of all started for him. And this movie's got a lot of Tim Burton type of zaniness and weirdness in it. And that suits the character of Pee Wee Herman very, very well. He's kind of this weird, quirky childlike character that is so unique and so living in his own world of whimsy and unhinged craziness and zaniness that it's not going to be for everyone. And I feel like if you didn't see him or see this character or see this movie when you were younger, I don't know if you're going to get it now. I really don't. Like I saw it young enough to where now I still appreciate this movie a lot. And even the filmmaking and just the way this movie's structured is um so simple yet so brilliant as well. So the movie clocks in at 90 minutes, and it's just Pee Wee going on an adventure, on a road movie adventure. So his precious bike, the thing that he probably loves most in the world, um, to the point where he keeps it like under lock and key. He keeps it behind like a door that you have to put a combination in. Gets stolen from him when he's out shopping, and he is beyond devastated that that happened to him, and he has to get it back by any means necessary. And he kind of goes crazy trying to do it. He goes and sees a fortune teller, and this fortune teller, who is clearly just making up nonsense, tells him, "Oh, I see your bike in this vision. Oh, it's in the basement of the Alamo." So he goes on a road trip to go to the Alamo in San Antonio, Texas, to go to this basement, which doesn't exist, to find this bike. And he meets these colorful, weird, crazy characters along the way. And he has this big old grand adventure and all this kind of stuff. I won't spoil any of that for those of you who haven't seen the movie. It is celebrating its 40th year anniversary this year, so that's why this probably came out at this time. And I was actually wondering, was Warner Brothers, 'cause it's a Warner Brothers movie, were they going to put out Pee Wee's Big Adventure again? Theatrical release, give it a 4K restoration, put out a new physical media release for it, because it is 40 years. And the Blu-ray release came out like I want to say 15 years ago, something around there. And this movie is one of those Warner Brothers movies that desperately needed that restoration, that remaster, and it got it here. Not only did it get a 4K digital restoration, but it is supervised and approved by Tim Burton himself. So you can't get much closer to what the original aesthetic intent is than the director himself. You really can't. We talk a lot about on here where sometimes people debate, like we just talked about in our Eyes Wide Shut review, is does this movie supposed to look this way? Well, since Kubrick is not alive, we don't really know. But in this case, Tim Burton is here with us still, and he can tell us how it's supposed to look. So I went online to poke around to see if there was anybody debating how the rest of the the aesthetics of this 4K UHD release. And from my point of view, when I go into something like this, my number one question is, does it look better than the Blu-ray that we've already had? And indeed it does. That's kind of like my number one concern. Because why would you upgrade and spend the extra money if it's not worth it? And indeed it is worth it. The movie looks better, um, more detail, the colors look better, and then the world in which Pee-wee lives in, the colors are always popping and stuff. The very beginning of this movie takes place at his house, and his house is a wonderland of weirdness, where he's got like little tchotchkes and little mechanisms and little things that are like making his breakfast. It's kind of like the opening of Back to the Future, where Marty McFly goes to Doc Brown's place and you see the little like inventions, like just like interconnecting, and to feed the dog and whatnot, and to make toast and stuff. Well, Pee-wee has that same type of stuff in his house, but it's just like more cutesy and whimsy and whatnot. But yeah, it's a movie that I'm glad finally got its due in a boutique label release. And for special features, actually, we kind of got some good stuff here. For special features, we've got a brand new interview between Richard Ayoade and Tim Burton, and I think this was done either this year or last year. But for those of you who don't know who Richard Ayoade is, he's a comedian, actor, filmmaker. He directed that movie, The Double, with what's his name?
Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg. And he also directed the movie, I think it's called Submarine, which was like a young coming of age film. It was very much his Wes Anderson film, if you will. I always thought that was super underrated. But anywho, they have this great like 30-minute interview of them just going back and forth and talking about the making of this movie and talking about all kinds of aspects of it. I mean, Richard Ayoade brings up all kinds of interesting tidbits where like he brought up the fact that this movie is very Fellini-esque, which blew my mind. Blew my mind.
Where did you get that?
Like I never put Pee Wee Herman and Federico Fellini in the same sentence before, but Tim Burton's like kind of like, yeah, that's the vibe I was going for, in the sense that it's supposed to be, idiosyncratically kind of light and weird. Because if you look at a lot of, Fellini's films, they have this circus atmosphere to them, purposely so. And this movie has a circus type atmosphere to it, in its sense of comedy, in its sense of light whimsy, and all those kinds of aspects. Um, and yeah, it was just kind of a fascinating interview where they just go back and forth about the various aspects of the movie. Glad to see a new special feature in any regard. There are two audio commentaries on here. There's one by Tim Burton and the late Paul Rubens. There's also one by composer Danny Elfman. Yes, I think this was Danny Elfman's, maybe his first score. I want to say maybe his first musical score, because I think at the time he was in the band Oingo Boingo, which is a hell of a name. And that's kind of where they got him from. I don't know if it's his first, so don't quote me on that. But anyway, there's also a new interview with there's new interviews with producer Richard Abramson, production designer David L. Snyder, co-writer Michael Verhall, and editor Billy Weber, conducted by critic Mark Olson. And that's all done, I believe, just through audio. It's just audio, and then there's like pictures and video over. That's about 37 minutes long, and that's all about the making of and production of this movie. Like they go from pre-production, and they talk about just the making of, the ins and outs of the making of the movie, because it's all production people. And yeah, and they go through the aftermath of it all, like its success and whatnot. Like it's really in-depth and really, really interesting. There is a Hollywood Master Storytellers interview with Paul Rubens from 2005 that was done for the 20th anniversary of this movie. And it's him one-on-one doing like a public interview and a public Q&A and stuff like that. That was really nice to see. And then there's an excerpt from the 40th anniversary screening of the film, presented by Nostalgic Nebula and hosted by comedian Dana Gould. Now that is brand new from like last year, and you get a lot of the same people that were in that like audio thing I was just talking about. Plus you get a couple of the actors are also there on stage talking about their experiences during the making of the movie. They cover a lot of the same ground, but it is brand new. You know, it is from like this year, I believe. So that's nice. And there's also deleted scenes on here as well. This movie does have two audio tracks. You do get the original like DTS, I think 2.0 master audio, and then there's an alternate 5.1 DTS master audio soundtrack as well. The 2.0 obviously is the original, more faithful one, and the 5.1 I think is like a remixed one for those of you who have all the surround sound around you. But yeah, that's Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know, you got this cool cover art on the front. Inside, it gets a little crazier too as well. You got the cover art with Pee-wee all mixed up on there, and then you got this really cool. I think this is a fold out, like almost mappish type insert, where it's just like a map of his adventure. I don't know if I can get this whole thing in frame, but as you can see, it's like one of those maps where you can like follow the dotted line and all that stuff. And then you got your essays on the other side. So yeah,
Awesome.
a really nice release. I know it's going to be probably a hot seller and fan favorite of the year because there's so many people who, like I said, grew up and just absolutely adore this movie.
Yeah, and you know, it's Tim Burton.
And it's Tim Burton.
It's
This is also part of whatever deal Criterion currently has with Warner Brothers. It's part of that as well. And I would recommend buying as many of those types of deals that you can, whether it's Criterion, whether it's Arrow, whether it's whomever, because who knows in the physical medium realm where things are going with Warner Brothers. So there you go.
For sure. Well, that is the 4 reviews we got for you. There was also 2 other releases that did just come out at the beginning of December. We have the upgrade of His Girl Friday, the Howard Hawks film, and then the Return to Reason, 4 films by Man Ray that got a release right before this. So yeah, check into that stuff. But we hope you enjoyed this overview of basically most of the releases for the month of December here.
From Criterion.
Yeah. So these are all, I think, recommends. All different types. I think this is a pretty wide array this month.
Very much so. Yeah, they like to end the year in a very strongly, and they're starting next year pretty strong as well. So we'll be back obviously again next month for a couple of the January releases. That should be pretty cool. But yeah, that's it for us here on Chasing Labels for these Criterion reviews. Let us know what you've gotten at the Criterion sale this time around. Why not?
Yeah. Well, we'll see you on the next one. And, of course, go subscribe to the Chasing Labels channel and check out all the other stuff we got going on. All right. Till next time. Bye.